The Galactic Council surrounded itself with an illusion of certainty, convinced no corner of the galaxy hid anything beyond its catalogued species and mapped empires. Delegates moved with the confidence of entities who believed the stars themselves bent to their authority. Reports from the rim were treated as background noise, faulty scanners, raider skirmishes, dying civilizations flickering out quietly. Nothing, in their view, could challenge the centuries-old balance they had crafted. What they ignored most was their own pattern, dismissing anomalies until those anomalies demanded recognition through force. And now, one silent reading from a forgotten sensor node began the chain that would tear through their assumptions. The first detection arrived as nothing more than a blip, an object of impossible mass drifting without propulsion signatures, leaving no particulate trail, emitting no thermal output. Analysts labeled it a malfunction before even running diagnostics. The Council had dismissed so many warnings over the decades that ignoring one more came naturally. Yet the anomaly reappeared on 3 additional networks across 2 different sectors, each confirming the same unreadable object piercing deep into their territory without requesting clearance, without activating any known warp systems, without even registering on subspace bandwidths. That alone should have triggered a full military alert, but arrogance held their hand. Instead, they assembled half-hearted committees to discuss what kind of glitch could imitate a vessel of dreadnought scale. As the hours passed, the object continued its silent approach. No scout ships could get a clear reading. Automated probes returned corrupted data before losing contact entirely. The Council dismissed this, too, deciding the probes had malfunctioned rather than consider that something could intentionally override them. Even when a border watch station reported a gravitational distortion inconsistent with any vessel in Council archives, military strategists insisted it was an asteroid coated in exotic matter. A handful of archivists, keepers of ancient, forbidden knowledge, exchanged uneasy glances, recognizing patterns described in long-buried Terran files. None dared speak aloud. The Council punished curiosity about extinct species, especially those considered too dangerous to have survived their own rise. When the object reached the inner systems, panic finally cracked the facade of calm. Diplomats demanded measured investigation while militarists screamed for full mobilization. Every faction believed they were right. Every faction operated on assumptions born from dominance, not caution. They argued over whether it was a weapon platform, a rogue empire's experiment, or a trick designed by insurgent states. The possibility of a returning species, specifically humanity, remained taboo, a ghost story relegated to classified vaults no one wanted opened. But the whisper still slipped out, a species once feared for its unpredictable ingenuity, its relentless adaptability, and its reputation for turning every war into a lesson written in scorched systems. The unknown vessel broke into Council space without hesitation. It drifted toward the central nexus, a violation so extreme that emergency protocols activated automatically. Sirens echoed across sectors as fleets repositioned. The vessel's hull swallowed every beam of light, appearing not as metal but as an absence carved into reality. No scans penetrated its surface. No energy readings suggested a motive drive. It moved with the certainty of a predator entering territory it had every claim to. Fleet captains formed defensive lines, unsure whether they were preparing for diplomacy or annihilation. Attempts to hail the vessel failed. No language packets registered. No acknowledgement flickered across comms. Engineers insisted that no known civilization possessed a ship with such sensor immunity. Strategists debated whether firing would be seen as provocation or self-defense. The Council failed to realize that their debate meant nothing. The entity behind that silent giant already controlled every variable. Then the impossible unfolded. The vessel rippled, not physically, but as though layers of reality peeled away. What the Council believed to be a single hull dissolved into a sequence of overlapping cloaks collapsing one after another. With each collapse, the ship grew clearer, sharper, more deliberate in design. Alien models had nothing like it. Where their dreadnoughts carried weapon banks, this vessel carried intentions written in austere geometry. Where their cruisers radiated energy signatures, this ship radiated controlled silence. The final cloak dropped. Letters, human in form, burned in crisp white along the hull. HTS Vengeance of Earth. The chamber fell silent across every connected system. Delegates froze mid-sentence. Tactical officers forgot their commands. The archivists, pale and shaking, recognized the designation instantly. Humanity had not perished. Humanity had not faded. Humanity had not retreated from extinction as the Council had comforted themselves into believing. Instead, humans had evolved beyond every limitation the galaxy imposed, returning not as desperate survivors but as masters of technologies the Council could not decipher. Emergency access to forbidden archives was granted out of sheer fear. Records long hidden revealed the truth. Humanity had vanished from galactic affairs after a catastrophic internal conflict, leaving relic worlds behind. The Council interpreted this as extinction, closing the file with relief. They had no idea that human outposts, automated fleets, and deep-range monitoring stations had survived in silence, waiting for conditions that deemed the galaxy safe or unsafe. As the dreadnought hovered above the Council's nexus, fleets trembled. No one fired. No one spoke. Every calculation, every assumption, every belief the Council had built regarding itself and the galaxy shattered in that moment. The price of their ignorance, their interference with abandoned Terran sites, and their disregard for the unknown had arrived, not as an enemy seeking conquest, but as a force delivering consequence. And in that silence, every species understood a truth they had hoped would never solidify. Humanity had returned, cloaked in power no one could challenge, answering questions the Council had never dared ask. Humanity was real. Humanity was alive. Humanity had come back with purpose. And the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Alarms cascaded across every layer of the Council's command structure as the Terran dreadnought remained motionless above the nexus. The vessel's silence weighed heavier than any threat. It behaved like a judge standing before the condemned, needing no theatrics to assert authority. Fleet commanders filled tactical channels with frantic proposals: retreat, negotiation, preemptive strike, but none dared act without consensus. Every faction realized that whatever emerged from that vessel would reshape galactic order, and the Council no longer held control. A sharp fluctuation pulsed through every comm band, followed by a clean, perfectly modulated human voice. There was no distortion, no emotion, only clarity that cut through the chaos like a blade. "Galactic Council," it declared, "your actions have been recorded. You were warned. The price of ignorance is now due." Entire fleets froze at the sound. Species with superior auditory processing recoiled instinctively, recognizing an unmistakable human cadence, calm, deliberate, unyielding. The message spread across colonies, outposts, and stations, reaching even those who believed humanity was a fable exaggerated by archivists. The Council scrambled for explanations. They demanded to know how humans had accessed secure channels without authorization keys. They demanded answers about how Terran linguistics appeared flawless despite centuries of dormancy. Nothing comforted them. Engineers reviewing data realized every communication system in the system had been quietly overridden. The dreadnought hadn't broadcast through their networks, it had replaced them. That revelation shattered any lingering belief that negotiations would be on equal ground. The human transmission resumed without delay. It listed, in stark detail, every Council transgression, the unauthorized entry into sealed Terran ruins, the extraction of dormant biological samples, the attempted reverse engineering of human warcores, and the reckless intrusion into a preserved Terran outpost that triggered automated guardians. The voice stated these facts without threats, as though reciting historical events already concluded. Humans hadn't returned because they were discovered. They returned because their systems detected violations that the Council arrogantly assumed would go unnoticed. Attempts to respond failed. Command centers found themselves unable to transmit. Every secure node, every encrypted terminal, every backup relay had been locked out. The dreadnought had effectively seized the system's entire communications lattice with negligible effort. This, more than the vessel's size, terrified the Council. Power that subtle was far more dangerous than overt demonstrations of force. Desperation finally broke one faction's restraint. A council war fleet, composed of ships considered elite by their own standards, launched a synchronized strike. Energy lances, mass drivers, destabilizers, and warp-tether disruptors surged toward the Terran vessel in a dazzling barrage meant to overwhelm even the strongest shielding. The dreadnought did not evade. It simply released a faint shimmer across its hull, an adaptive field that absorbed, redirected, or nullified every incoming attack. Weapon impacts vanished as though sinking into a void. Sensor logs recorded no fluctuation in Terran power output, no shield stress, no reactive countermeasures. The ship behaved as if physics itself made way for it. Council admirals felt their confidence collapse. They had expected resistance. They had not expected irrelevance. The dreadnought responded, but not with destruction. Lines of blue-white indicators ignited along its surface, silently marking targeted coordinates. A moment later, beams of surgical precision struck every attacking vessel, not to obliterate, but to dismantle. Engines died instantly. Shields collapsed. Weapons shut down. Command decks dimmed as systems went offline. In seconds, the entire war fleet drifted helplessly. No casualties. No explosions. No debris. Humanity demonstrated not only mastery but restraint, proving they chose force deliberately, not emotionally. Before panic could escalate, dozens of dark pods descended from the dreadnought toward the Council's central station. They bypassed every defense system as though the station had invited them. When they opened, Terran soldiers emerged, encased in exo-armors that appeared seamless, metallic, and unnervingly quiet. Their movements exhibited absolute discipline, no wasted motion, no hesitation. Council guards instinctively stepped back, recognizing they faced soldiers evolved far beyond anything the galaxy fielded. These humans needed no intimidation. Their presence alone conveyed capacity for overwhelming violence while showing zero inclination toward chaos. Terran forces moved directly to the council chamber. Doors unlocked automatically at their approach. Delegates who once commanded fleets and legislated entire species now found themselves stripped of every illusion of superiority. The human commander stepped forward, not towering, not theatrically armored, but carrying an authority born from capability rather than ceremony. When he spoke, his words were precise and final. Humanity demanded immediate cessation of all interference with Terran sites. Every artifact, sample, and retrieved object was to be returned. A non-interference treaty would be signed under Terran oversight. Any future attempt to breach sealed Terran zones would trigger an uncompromising response. The commander made it clear that humanity harbored no desire for conquest. They sought only acknowledgement of boundaries and respect for their sovereignty. The Council understood the deeper message. Humans would treat violations not as diplomatic missteps but as direct threats. No delegate dared refuse. No faction dared posture. They understood that the dreadnought above them represented only a fragment of Terran capability. If this was their visible power, their unseen capacity must dwarf anything the Council could conceive. Once agreements were secured, Terran troops withdrew without causing damage. The dreadnought slowly recloaked, its hull dissolving layer by layer until it vanished into the void. Before disappearing entirely, a final message resonated across every recovered communication channel. Remember Earth. The Council remained frozen long after the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than any decree the Council had ever issued. Empires recalculated strategies. Militaries reassessed doctrines. Prospectors abandoned Terran zones. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt genuine fear, not born from malice, but from realizing that humanity had returned with knowledge the Council never possessed, strength they could never match, and patience mistaken for extinction. Every species understood the truth carved into that warning: ignorance had carried a cost, and humanity had collected it with precision, restraint, and unmistakable supremacy. And throughout the stars, no one dared test their resolve again.